the big question in the room, why Australia? Why not Kenya?
There's some extra exposure that people get, and we gain expertise, let me put it that way. And then if and when we go home, we're able to implement the same, because we've seen the government sometimes even getting expertise from outside. So why not us ourselves come and gain the experience, go back home,
and be our expert.
Once you study here, you get a different set of skills that is probably not available in Kenya. This is like getting an international experience and international skills. I think it puts you, ahead of the rest of the pack when you're able to demonstrate this as well.
It is really important as an agent to make sure that you advise students. Yes, they will come here and they will work, but you have to remain focused on your objective. But you cannot afford not to go through with your studies because your visa is going to get cancelled.
What's the relationship between you as a university and the agents?
We sign up this agency and we put them on our website. And why do we put them on our website? To authenticate. So that when a student approaches an agency and they say, look, I can make your application to Torrance University, the first thing the student should do, go to the Torrance University website, go to how to apply, find an agent, search that agent's name. If that agent is not on that list, that agent does not work for Torrance University.
What do we do with people who are 35 years or over 35 years? Because I want to study, but clearly my age is not their cup of tea. So
the only other option, if one is probably over 35, is maybe to look at various options like skilled migration, because Australia does need people with skills.
Very good morning to you and a warm welcome to LNS Rebuilding Restoration Series. My name is Lynn Ngugi, and today we are having this conversation in one of the best universities in Australia, because guys, you know the reason why we are in Australia. We have done a couple of videos back home, and one of the things that made us want to travel was just to experience and see, is it true what people say about Australia? And today I want you guys to be able to get all the details you can. Matters, students, matters, uni, matter, education in a very layman's language. And I've got really beautiful people here who are going to walk us through this conversation. And I'm sure by the time we are done, you will have gathered all the details you need, because it's one thing to have a conversation about Australia back home, and then it's another thing to be able to have this conversation right in Australia. I'm about to let our panel introduce themselves so that they can be able to walk us through this conversation. But then again, you all know we have had an amazing time here in Australia, and I want to say thank you so much to the Kenya community for just welcoming our team and making us feel like home. I'm sure there are a couple of footages that are running through your screen. We have been here, we have had great dinners, we've met great people, and we've had beautiful shows, and it would not have been possible if the Australia community did not believe in LNN and the kind of work that we do. So we appreciate you, and a special thank you also to John and Jane for being incredible people to our team when we are here in Australia, and Kenya Australia Chamber of Commerce for believing in us and making sure that our tour is as smooth as it gets. I always say LNN is a platform that you guys created. It's one thing to cook food, and then it's another to have people want to participate or partake in your meal. So I don't take you guys for granted. And road to 1 million subscribers, here we come. So I appreciate each and every one of you for taking your time and giving us those constructive criticism and making sure that we continue impacting our society one story at a time. Honestly, I do appreciate you, and I hope we learn a thing or two from today's conversation. Wacha niache kuongea sana. So without further ado, please allow me to let my guests today introduce themselves. Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning.
How is everyone feeling?
Good.
May I have to start before I even let you introduce yourselves? This thing has been in my mind. Is there a particular Australian accent?
Good day, mate.
Well, yeah.
Did you say mate? Oh,
Mate.
say that again.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
John, how do you say it?
How are you going, man?
How do you say that?
Should be howdy.
Hey, howdy.
Yeah.
So it's generation to generation. So there's a generation with howdy, there's good day, mate, and then good day, mate. Okay. I get it. Really nice to have this conversation with you guys. Please, if you could introduce yourself to our audience and also what you do.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Japheth. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Lynn, for having us today. I'm currently a business analyst with one of the organizations in Australia and owned by Kenyans. So it's exciting to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Mahasi. I am the Regional Director at Torrens University, Australia.
Beautiful.
Hey, good morning, everybody. And again, I must welcome Lynn to Australia. It's lovely to have you here. You've got a good following, very good following, and very popular. So it's really been wonderful to have you here.
Yeah.
My name is John Kamaungatia, and I run an organization, Laserbeam International, and we are involved in facilitating for students to come and study in Australia. And no, it's really wonderful to have you here. I know we had a conversation back in Kenya, and it's wonderful that we can now take that conversation further, like you said, and being here for you to actually see for yourself on the ground what Australia education is all about. So I'm really excited about that.
This was quite a challenge for me because I remember I did interview Dr. Koech and then I had a conversation with you and the thoughts were not aligned. One party was saying Australia does this and the other party said Australia does not do this, you know. So even for me as a media personality, it was very important for me to be able to get here and get those facts straight from the ground. And I love this panel because we have one person here. John, you're representing the agencies, and Beth, you're representing a university. And thank you, Torrent University has really been good to our team. And Japheth here, you also representing being a young person in Australia and also a student. You just enrolled for your PhD?
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Hey, is there a limit to what a person can do?
Well, with education, there's no limit because even post PhD studies, everybody is always studying. So
Yeah.
I would say there's no limit.
Okay.
Just take it the farthest you want, and yeah.
So allow me to ask, how long have you been in Australia?
I've been in Australia since 2018. That's when I came to Australia, and then I came as a student, and then as a student went through the process of being introduced to Australia, the culture, the studies. Because coming to Australia, I thought the education system was the same as back home, but it's actually different. And here, what you study is what you're going to practice in the market, and it's really. So I went through the process. I graduated, and with God's help, because I really believe in God, and I was able to get a job, and yeah, I'm practicing now, and I'm happy. It's exciting.
How is the work environment?
Work environment is really good, and there's work balance. There's respect. They respect our culture because we are from different cultures. We do have team building activities that help us bond together. When it comes to work, our bosses are friendly, and you're able to deliver. You're given the field for you to deliver just as much as you can, because they have an understanding that you've gone to uni and you've gained an experience, so exploit as much as you can. So yeah, it's exciting and it's fun.
All right. Allow me to start with you because you're going to help us build this conversation.
Right.
So you are a young man in Kenya and you've heard about Australia.
Yes.
Initially, what did you know about Australia?
So first of all, when we are back home, most of the times when you want to study abroad, I will rarely think about Australia. So I used to think about States, Canada, and all the countries. I used to try and get MasterCard Foundation scholarships, but I didn't get any. I had a friend who was doing PhD in California. So she will send me the emails for applications. I kept applying, and then I couldn't get it until my friend went to Options Education. And then when she came to Australia, I was curious to know how she managed to do it and all that. So I followed the same stream. And then now, when I went to the agency, they were able to guide me on how to find schools, get a course that was going to match what I was doing before. And then after that, that's when I got accepted and moved to Australia. But what did I think about Australia before? To be honest, I didn't think about Australia because it was my last option.
Good.
But it turned out to be the best option. Yeah.
Okay. So back home, I'm pretty sure you have your parents or
Right.
you have your relatives.
Yeah.
What did they know about Australia, or what did you communicate to them about Australia? And at what point did they, give you, that approval? Yeah, go. This is a good place for you to go.
So the story begins when I was doing my almost graduating, doing my undergrad, and then my parents are very open. They're very open-minded. They're not the kind of parents who will just hold you there and then they have you stay home and just. So I really wanted to explore what was out there, because it's from the unknown to what we just see on movies, and so I wanted to understand and get to explore what's out there. So because I used to work, I had a chat with my father and I told him that I was interested in doing my master's in Australia. Sorry, abroad.
Yes.
And then he told me, you know what? First graduate, and then after you graduate, let's start the process. Did I know about the process? No. So I waited until we graduated. I got my certificate, and then just after I got my certificate is when I had a chat with my friend who now happened to have applied in Australia. And then after that, so now I went to the agency with all my papers, and now what did they think? They were very open-minded. They didn't have any issue with that. They're very prayerful. So they said, you know what? Let's apply for school, let's pray, and let's look for the school fees. And that's how we ended up deciding. Well, they told me, we give you the blessings. Once you get the school, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the process was smooth for you.
It was smooth for me.
All right.
Yeah.
And John, one of the things he keeps mentioning is, I went to the agency, I did this. You own an agency. So if from this stage where he knows, I really want to go, there's not much information about him on Australia, but the desire is there to come and study in Australia, and mainly from someone that he knows. Someone has been here and someone has told him, it's a good place, you come. Walk us through the agency and what role do you play now when someone someone is young and they come to you and they say, I have a desire to study in Australia, but they do not know much about Australia, and what's the role of the agency in making sure they get here safe and sound?
Very good. First and foremost, when a student comes to us, it's really first and foremost to find out what is their goal, what is their objective. And secondly, why do they want to come to Australia? Why don't you want to go to any other country? Because it's really important as an agent for you to really understand the objective of this candidate, the objective of the student, because once you have the objective, then you can be in a position to guide them accordingly. So that's number one. Number two, it's really important that we run through with the candidate exactly what the process looks like. It's really important for us to give them an indication of what Australia has to offer. What is it like? Because it's a life-changing scenario. The way things run in Kenya is very different from the way they run in Australia. So it's really important not just to let the candidate know about the procedures that are necessary. So there are very clear guidelines set by the government of what a candidate needs to do in order for them to qualify to come to Australia. That is, do they have the financial capacity, for example? Do they have the right grades? Are they aware of, you're moving into an unknown territory? How do we prepare this particular person so that at least they have an idea of what they're getting into? What is the culture like? What is the climate like? What are some values that Australia holds? And that is really the essence of an agent, is really to make sure you are able to pre-qualify these candidates. You are able to give them all the relevant information, what they need to go through the process, like I said, and how is life like in Australia.
Okay.
Because sometimes there's a misconception. People, for example, Australia does allow students to work. However, there are very clear guidelines as to when you should work, how many hours you should work. Now, even when you land in Australia, that job that you're getting is not necessarily meant to be your source of looking for funds for you to be able to finance your education. It is really important, and this is where financial capacity comes in. It's important as an agent to make sure that these candidates, they have adequate finances, at least for 1 year. That's the government requirement. So cost of living for 1 year, school fees for 1 year, because you don't want a student to come here and start getting stressed because they don't have fees, they don't have, these are really pertinent issues that not only to the candidate, but also to the parent. For us, what we normally like is to make sure that initial meeting when we are starting is that we are not just talking to the candidate, but we are also talking to the parents.
Beautiful.
Because it's a family journey. Also, as an agent, you need to be able to discern, because not all children are going to really be ideal to come to Australia. We are all different as human beings. Some children need to probably maybe mature a little bit more.
Yes.
And if you are a good counselor, you should be able to pick that. Even parents, from a parental perspective, because we need to work in collaboration with the parents. I would say parents would know their children. So not everybody, so to speak, would really be ideal to come to Australia.
Yes.
Majority of them, if you're given the right information, then you would be in a position to know, yes, this is for me. Because you see, you cannot make a right decision based on false information. And sometimes in Kenya, depending on who you go to, there have been people who have been given the wrong information. Sometimes you hear people saying, no, I was told that I'll get a job immediately. Well, really it doesn't work that way. Sometimes, yes, you are allowed to work. There are parameters about how much you can work, but still you should not be coming here to rely on money that, that you're going to get a job and then you'll be able to sustain yourself. If I was to go specifically to the steps now that are required, so financial capacity is really important. What is the intention of this person? Are they really, genuine students? Because you need to be a genuine student in order for you to be coming to Australia. Can you afford? Do you have the right qualifications? Do you have the right, and the right qualifications is, yes, your academic qualifications, and then also you need to make sure that you have qualified with regards to English competency tests. So that is IELTS or PTE. Once we have that, then we can apply to the school. The school will give us, generally they'll give us what we call a conditional offer letter. That conditional offer letter has very specific conditions that you must meet as a student before you get what we call an unconditional offer letter. Once you get the unconditional offer letter, then the school will say, yes, we are happy, we've looked at everything that is required for you to come here as a genuine student. You are genuine, and now you can go ahead and pay the first installment of school fees. And that is always a percentage of the yearly school fees that you're required to. Once you do that, then we get a very, very important document. Generally, it's referred to as a COE, which is a confirmation of enrollment. What the school is saying, we now have a seat reserved for you, for you to be able to study in our college. Then with all that and all the documentation, then we go to the government, because it's a two-pronged approach. You're dealing with the school first and foremost, and then we have to deal with the government, because the government is the one that is going to issue the student with a visa. Once we collect all that documentation, you have the COE, we apply to the government for a visa. There's also a timeline that you have to wait, at least maybe around about 8 weeks, by the time you apply, by the time you expect to get a visa. It is not necessarily that sometimes your visa is approved. However, if an agent has done the right due diligence, we've taken somebody through the right process and the right candidate, the chances of getting a visa are very high.
Beautiful.
But if somebody has not gone thoroughly through that process, the chances of the visa being rejected is very high, because you might not be seen as a genuine student who deserves to be in Australia. Then once that process is done and you've gotten a visa, for us as agent, we make sure that, okay, we now prepare the candidate for what we would call pre-departure arrival. So accommodation, has it been sorted? Do you have somebody? Sometimes students have got relatives that are here, that live here, in which case they don't require that.
Yeah.
We always want to make sure this student, have we sorted accommodation? Is somebody meeting them at the airport? When they get here, they need to be familiarized with this place. How do we get the bus? How do we go to the college? How do we go, because most colleges, in fact, all colleges will have an orientation. You need to make sure that the student gets here before the orientation, so that at least they get themselves oriented. It's a new place, people do things differently. You need to make sure that at least there is adequate time for that particular student to be familiar you know, meet them at the airport. I mean, you know, it's not an easy concept leaving home. I mean, even me, when I came here, however many years ago, I was a grown-up. It's not easy. It's not easy because you're stepping into the realm of the unknown, okay? And if you don't have somebody who can at least guide you, it can be quite daunting. Okay. So it's important, you know, as agents to make sure that we facilitate the whole process. And even after that, it's really important to keep on checking on our young people. Okay. So for example, with our organization, every 3 months, we have a dinner with them. We sit down with them, and I'm fortunate in the sense that I've been involved in personal development for a long time. We share with our students, how can you navigate through challenges? Life is full of challenges. It's never a straight line.
Yes.
How do we navigate through challenges? There could be all sorts of challenges that somebody can go through. And we sit down at a round table, you know, they share their experiences. When you're sharing your experiences, you find that you are not alone.
Yes.
Somebody else is going through the same thing. And we guide them on what they need to do. In addition to that, I would say most colleges, most universities, they have very, very well-equipped departments that handle international students. You know, and probably Beth can maybe allude more to that because that's really not my domain. But the universities, most of them have got very, very good international students department that takes the welfare of students. And one thing that we always let our young people know is that don't be shy. Ask for help if you need help. You know, talk about what's happening. You know, if things are not going well, it's always good to talk. And maybe, you know, as a student, I can talk about what I expect. Me not being a student, probably even Japheth, you can share a little bit about your experience on you know, some of the things that I'm talking about.
Great. Huh?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love how things are just, you know, forming themselves. So we just came from you as a student. You've dealt with an agency, and now, you know, Beth, first, congratulations. You know, I had an in-depth conversation with you from a student now to the regional director at Torrance University. That's Africa and Middle East.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Could you take us a bit back, maybe as a student, because you've been a student first here in Australia before you pivoted. How has that helped you deal with students when they come here? And also, what was your experience as a student in Australia?
Well, for me, as a student in Australia, as Japheth says, the education system is quite different here. I came to do my MBA. I applied to come to Torrance to do my MBA. And so the experience is, for example, I remember one of my first things is, you know how in Kenya when you're addressing your teacher, your lecturer, or someone, an educator of some level, you always address them as sir or Mr. this, Mr. Kamau, Mr. So I came here and I think that was my approach. That's what I knew. That was my culture. So I was trying to address my lecturer. I don't go, excuse me, sir. And, you know, and I said it a few times until it was like, Beth, could you please, can we drop this, sir? They were like, I'm very uncomfortable with you calling me sir. Just use my name. And I was very uncomfortable in that space to call my lecturer by his name because I felt that's not how you were raised. That's quite different for me. But, you know, you have to adjust. That's the culture here. And I understood the reasoning behind it is a culture in Australia. It's a very social culture. Yeah. It's a very informal society here. You know, the people don't, yes, you might be someone's senior at work, but you don't actually relate like that. You can relate like that when it comes to meetings and emails, but socially, you know, when you're by the kitchen having a cup of coffee, you don't feel that division or that hierarchy or anything like that. So one of the things, I think my experience as a student here was just utilizing the student support services here, because the student support services, it's a whole team. In all universities, actually, it's a whole team of people who are dedicated solely to support international students. So, for example, if you need some academic help, you need some assistance to understand how to write your essay, how to write your assignment, how to write your paper, or how to do your research for your paper, or how to write your referencing on your paper, they're there to help you. If you are looking for a job and you're feeling like, I'm not sure how to structure, because there's a different structure in Australian resumes and CVs from how we write them at home. So if you're not familiar with that, you go to the team and say, hey, I'm intending to look for a job. Can you help me write my CV? And they do it for you for free. In fact, they go another step further. They give you a database. They tell you, hey, these are the people that are known to employ our students on a part-time basis.
Wow.
Would you like the list? You can send your application. You know, you say you're a student at Torrance and this and that. Yes, then they do that. If you are a student who needs additional support in whichever way or shape or form, if you're able differently and you need different access, maybe it's your eyesight, so you need to sit closer in class, then that, you know, you speak to student services, that is organized. If you need a wheelchair access or stuff like that, that's also something that student services is there to assist you with. If you are a student that, you know, you learn best, you know, in less busy environments, maybe more quiet environment, then they support you with that as well. So there's a lot of support that the student services give. In fact, even here at Torrance, I found something very unique called a success coach. So when you enroll at Torrance, you are assigned a success coach. So this success coach, what is their job? As the name depicts, they are your coach. They keep you on track. They keep you on your feet. They make sure you're not losing momentum. You know, they're there saying, Beth, you gotta go. What's happening? You know, you've missed 2 lectures. What's happening? You gotta get back into it. What did you follow up? What you missed in those lectures? Why did you miss them? When is the assignment? You know, you should then start working on your assignment on this day so that it's ready by this day. Send me a draft. Once it's done, I'll have a look. I'll make sure that you've organized it properly and all this before you submit it. And these are all the support that, you know, universities give to students when you come here to study, to make sure that you're not walking the journey alone. And for me, I found that to be a very helpful resource. You know, if you're feeling like, oh, my assignment won't be ready on time because of 1 of 2, 3 things, then you go to your success coach. You say, oh, sir or David, I'm feeling like my assignment won't be ready on time, and then he'll be like, okay, good, you need to email your lecturer, ask them for a 2-week extension. Don't just ignore and just assume you can submit 2 weeks later. You need to go and get approval before, if you're gonna get late with your assignment. So these were some of the support. Now, I never got this in Kenya while I was studying there. It was a one-man show. You know, you run your course, you make sure you do the right thing at the right time. But here there is additional support just to make sure the students are successful at the end of it. And I think for me, as a student and now even working in the university, I find that to be a very precious resource that I find, like, I wish all our students could embrace and use it, because it really, at the end of the day, you can see the results. You can see, you know, I'm glad this success coach pushed me. All of our courses include something we call work integrated learning. That is, it's like a placement. You know, at home we call them attachments. Yeah. So all of our courses, they do include a unit that is an attachment. It is a work integrated learning. And what does that involve? That involves taking the students and putting them in the industry, putting them in the course that you're studying. If you're doing nursing, if you're doing hospitality, if you're doing design, you know, whatever course you're doing, the university, you don't have to look for it. We do it. We look for it and then we place you in there. That forms part of your assessment. Your supervisor at that workplace has a checklist to make sure, okay, if I ask Beth to do this, is she able to do it and do it diligently and properly? And they tick off. So they make sure this student has acquired the skills that are industry relevant. They're relevant to the industry right now, so that by the time we graduate these students and send them out to the industry, they have the most up-to-date information about the industry. And in most cases, these industries actually absorb these students, because they're like, oh, this one, we don't even need to train them. They're ready, they have what we need, and they're here already, they're in our systems. So we absorb them. And these students, they end up getting the job even before they graduate. The employer will be like, look, we are very happy with you. Once you graduate, come, we sign a contract. We'd like to keep you with us. So those are just some, you know, some support systems that we have in place that support our students.
Great.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's important that, you know, you had your experience as a student, but now once again, you are regional director. So you get to deal a lot with students coming from Africa and the Middle East. What's the relationship between you as a university and the agents? What where are you involved? Where do you come in to make sure, as much as the agents are bringing the students to you, these students hawajapelekwa through a lot of kukoniwa, kuskamiwa, kupewa the wrong information? What role do you play as a university to, yes?
So that's a very good question, Lynn. In fact, I'm very happy you asked that question, because a lot of students, they ask me, when they email me directly and they say, Beth, I want to come and study at Torrance. I'm like, thank you, we welcome you. Please go to our website. Here's a link. Find an agent who's located close to you to assist you with your application. And they say, why? Why do I need an agent? Why can't I apply directly by myself? Now, that question, I think John covered it very, very well. The things that he addressed, not every student knows. They don't know the process. They don't know what they require. They don't know what the government requires from them. As a university, we receive thousands of applications. Remember, we are not just an African, Middle East focused university. We have students from subcontinent, India, Nepal. We have students from Europe. We have students from all over the world. So per day, we are receiving thousands of applications. It's very difficult as a university to give that personalized attention to each and every student around the world. So what we have done is we've partnered with agencies. And these agencies, they undergo a very rigorous assessment by us. We do our due diligence on these agencies. Number two, and one of those rigorous assessments involves, has this agent completed? There is a Ministry of Education licensing test that they need to do. Do they have that with them? You know, are they registered in their home country? Are they registered with their Ministry of Education? And then once we have that information and we do our due diligence around their registration, then we look at their expertise. How long have you been in the industry? What do you know about the industry? Once we look at that, then we take them through our own training. We make sure they understand our courses, they understand our entry requirements, they understand what scholarships we have, they understand which students would qualify for our courses, which campuses we have. Make sure they understand our whole brand and what products that we have that we can give to our students. And in that way, then we sign up this agency and we put them on our website. And why do we put them on our website? To authenticate. So that when a student approaches an agency and they say, look, I can make your application to Torrance University, the first thing the student should do, go to the Torrance University website, go to how to apply, find an agent, search that agent's name. If that agent is not on that list, that agent does not work for Torrance University, right? So that's how you do your due diligence. You make sure you're working, and this works for all universities. You make sure the agent that you're choosing is on the university website, because that means they have been vetted, they have met the university requirements, they have met the government requirements, they have the correct registrations and all that. If at any one point you feel the agent is misleading you, you need to let the university know, because sometimes we do need feedback. We do collect feedback from our students. What was your experience with your agent? And this is to make sure that, because we know there's this other level of I guess the agency business where they partner with what they call sub-agencies. At one time, that student must know who is their main agency. The student must know this is the agency that is submitting my visa application. Because we, as a university, you asked me the question, where do we come in? We work with the agent to actually make sure that the students' documents are genuine. So we do a lot of verification from our side, and we do the academic assessment, make the student meets the entry requirements, and then we'll send the offer letter to John. And then John needs to tell the student, okay, now you have your offer letter. We need to show the university that you actually have a good financial background, or your sponsor has a good financial background to support your studies. And why do we do that as a university? Why do we want to see your bank statements or your sponsor's bank statements? We want to make sure once you come to Australia, you're not struggling. Because, you know, a lot of people, I've met a group of students here who, they show us the bank statements for a sub-relative, you know, a relative once, twice, 3 times removed from you, right? Now, my question would be, why is this person interested in paying for you now? You know, what is their end goal? Because there's always a risk this person has just given the student the bank statement to satisfy me that they have the capacity. At other times, I do understand there is another sub-business where people sell their bank statements. You know, me, I have a bank statement of 10 million. If you want it, give me 100,000, I'll print it for you, you know. So we do have to do our due diligence. What is the interest of this person sponsoring you?
Yes.
If you say, oh, this person paid for my high school, that's right, now they're paying for my university, fine, well and good, as well as we have the paperwork to back it up. But we do need to make sure the student has genuine access to that money. When your school fees is due, this person, you can tell them, uncle, auntie, mom, dad, pesa inatakikana, and the funds will be there to pay for you. Because what we don't want is a student here with mental stress and a stress because the funds are not there. The university has sent you your next invoice, the funds are due, and the funds are not there. So we do need to make sure that this student has genuine access to funds. And that's also where we work with the agencies to make sure it's like double work. We check, they check, just to make sure everything, and the embassy will also check. That's this student. And even randomly, the embassy might call the student and ask them, who is your sponsor? What do they do for work? You know, why are they sponsoring you? We have to make sure whatever responses the student is giving aligns with what they say to me, what they say to John, what they wrote in their statement of purpose, which is what they've said to the embassy.
Good.
So there it's a lot of, maybe a bit of double work, but
Yes.
it's for the students' end benefit, for their own good.
Complete 360.
Absolutely, yes.
And you know, now you've dealt with the university, you've dealt with your, agency.
Right.
You've arrived in Australia.
Yeah.
Walk me through the highs, the lows, the bad, the good, the beautiful, the ugly, and also how was that environment like for you, the education, the study environment compared to also back home?
All right. So now you have the offer letter, you pay the school fees, and just as they said, you've gotten now the visa is out. So you're given, mostly if the visa is out, it gives you some time for you to come and settle in and, acclimatize and get to know where the uni is, because, it's your first time to come to Australia. And now, in my case, I got here when we had about 2 weeks to study now. So I felt like the 2 weeks were able to give me enough time for me to first come in, settle in. And then within, I think it's 1 week before the studies begin, we have orientation week. So you come to the uni and then you're taken through the university, you get to learn. That's why even you meet the success coaches. So because it's very important when you meet them, they're able to help you understand how you're supposed to choose the subjects. Because, for instance, I was doing a technical program. So if it's technical, to make sure that I do not choose a unit that I should have chosen in probably the end of the year. Because if I do that, because you're given the liberty to do your own subject selection. So if you do subject selections and you've not done the prerequisite, you're going to struggle. So they really helped us in getting to know what. So during that time is the time now you meet your success coaches. They help you. They tell you, in case you're struggling here, come and do this, and we are here for you. So now I come to Australia. I get to Australia. First of all, it's culture shock. My first culture shock was, do you see how back home we pay bus fares for someone? You go to a bus, you sit next to your friend, and you're like, I'll pay for you. Here, you pay using a card. Remember, at that time, you've just landed, so you do not even have you do not have a job, you do not have a car of your own. So there's concession card. So even something that's very good about Australian government too, they have, and they know this. We have the cards that we use for transport. So if you're a student, it's a concession card. So it's actually at a discount. So you find that you can probably you can pay it once and use it within, is it an hour or two, for free. In the cities for free, you travel for free. So now I got here and I get to the bus and everybody is standing for you to sit down. And then you see when you sit and the next seat is empty and you have your bag there. Back home, you normally pick it up and someone sits there.
Yes.
So if someone comes in and finds the bag there, they'll just stand up.
Hey.
If you try to take it, they tell you they're good. So those are some of the things that I met here, and I was amazed, and they were very, and the food it's very different, and the fact that you can literally spot a Kenyan somewhere, because we are very few. Not until you get to the point of meeting the community and you realize that actually we are quite a number. So culture shock was number one, but over time I got to understand where to go to church, where the uni is. And then the uni offers, it gives you an option where if you do not have anyone you know to host you, they will always help you with student accommodation, because that's something that's very good, because not everybody who's coming to Australia or any other country has someone here who they know. So that's something which, and the agencies as well, they help with that, because when you're coming here, for instance, you do not have anybody, you do not have a relative, you do not have a friend, it's only you and your bag.
Yes.
So when you get here, they were able to help us. Luckily enough, I had a relative, so I lived with them. But now, for someone who does not have that, the uni now will come in and help you to know. You can literally even come to the uni and say, I'm a student here and I do not have accommodation. They will definitely help you with that, because assuming that when you're coming to Australia, as she said, you gave the bank statement. This shows that you are financially able to take care of yourself, even before you get a job that's just for sustenance and all that. So the uni will help us, and that's what we went through. It was not a difficult. Some people meet challenges, but I didn't meet any challenge, to be honest, because I got here, culture shock, came to uni, we started studying, and now the other culture shock for me was when you're studying, whatever you're studying is industry based. So if you study this here, when you get a job, that's what you're going to be practicing. Not in some cases where you will back home, you will study, you will be a teacher and end up being
Unemployed.
or go to the bank
And work.
so you didn't study anything to do that. But yeah, here whatever you study is what you're going to practice. So that's what I understood. And the uni will bring people from different, actually where we used to meet here for some catch-ups and with industry experts, and they would help us understand what we need to do after uni. They will also they will tell us to apply for the postgraduate programs, which you get a job, get some experience from that, and then after that, if the way she said, we will easily be absorbed into employment. So when I came to Australia, I felt at home, because the Kenyan community is really large. We have galas that we go to, so I got to know a lot of people, and from that, in school too, I met people who would even having conversations with people from different countries as well. We became friends and we thrived. So eventually I got a job as well, even when I was studying, because the government gives us the opportunity to be able to work while we study. Mainly the work is just to sustain yourself, and also I think it helps us to break the monotony of, if you've been in school, you get a job, at least you get to understand the industry expertise, you gain some experience, and also try to implement or use the skills that you've learned in uni at work. Because now if you bring that to work, you're able to learn and see, your approach was in a certain way, but now at work you also understand that, there's a different way we can actually do. So you find that the industry intermarries very well with uni, and it really helped me. I can't lie to you that I struggled much. It's the usual stress of, you're studying, you're working, but that's usual. Even back home, that's what we do. Yes. So it was a very good, smooth transition, which I enjoyed. Over the time I was in uni, we used to have, as she said, it's actually, I can attest to that. My success coach called me once. He was like, Japheth, you're not in school. What happened?
Hey.
And on that day I was in traffic and I got here and I was late. And just that's to show how much detailed they are.
Involved they are also in the process.
Yeah.
That's,
and he helped me with that. So it was a good transition, and I enjoyed it. Now
and I have to say, Lynn, that is actually very deliberate from the point of Torrens University. Our lecturers actually own businesses in the industry, in the subject that they're teaching. So if I'm taking a marketing class, my lecturer actually is running a marketing business.
Wow.
So he teaches me what he knows currently and what the industry needs. So from his experience as a marketer in industry currently, he'll tell me the industry is shifting. People are going into artificial intelligence and going into social media. So that is what he'll teach in class. So we are not stuck in a curriculum that was relevant 10, 15, 20 years ago. Our curriculum here changes with the industry as it changes. If I am in a disability class, whatever the lecturer is teaching me in class, once I go to my placement, I can apply it immediately, because that is what is relevant in the industry right now.
Wow.
And I think that is one of the strong points, especially at Torrance University, that they engineer their courses to be relevant at the time and also in the future, because the lecturer in class is in industry. And for me, I found that, in fact, when I was attending my lessons, I used to feel, because the lecturer would come, good evening, everyone, you know, then he'll tell us, today I got a client, and he sent me his brief, and his brief was about this and this. So how I intend to service this client is this and this and this and this. And then he'd say, break into groups, 4 groups. Each group come with an alternative on how you would service this client. So, you know, we are even giving him ideas on how to service his client, but it's based on industry, what is relevant in the industry as of that time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, John, where does the agency now come in being transparent with this information? Because I'm in Kenya, I might not have, you know, these details, but I really want to come and study in Australia. Are the agencies up to date, you know, with the industry? And do you advise parents, yes, this is a good course, but this is also, do you give the parents or the students, do you give them options? And are you transparent with them on where maybe they should focus on?
Yeah, and I would say, if you remember what I mentioned before,
Yes.
as a good counselor, the first thing that you really need to ask the student, what are their goals? What are their objectives? What do they really want? And then as a good counselor or as a good agent, you need to be able to guide them. What is happening? What is current? Guide them with regards to the relevant courses that fit their ultimate goal.
Yes.
You know, it's really key, because I would say this whole process is not just about education, it's about somebody's destiny. You know, because if I want to be at a particular place in future, I need to make sure that I'm doing the right thing that is relevant now, that is going to take me where I want to go. So it's really important as an agent to make sure that you explore all those avenues, ask questions, so that at least people can be in a position. The more you ask questions, the more you get clarity as to what this person really wants. And then you also have to be very aware of what you are marketing, because essentially we are marketing for specific institutions. It's important to be aware and familiar with what is possible.
Good.
And share that information with the candidates and even their parents. Like I said, it's really important, because if they don't have that information, then they are bound to make decisions that probably would not be ideal for them. And it's really the essence of a good agent to make sure that you really disseminate information very clearly and concisely.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Because I think also, just to add on to that, on identifying why, because some students, they have the wrong why. Like someone might go to an agency and say, I want to go to Australia and study nursing. Why do you want to go and study nursing? Because my friend is there and she's studying nursing. Okay, when did you finish high school? In the year X. What have you done since then? Oh, I've been working in hospitality, I've been a waitress, this and that and that. So why do you want to go and do nursing? Have you ever done anything, volunteered in nursing, taken a short certificate course, you know, anything? Have you ever done anything in nursing? No. So why exactly do you want to do? Because my friend is doing nursing. And did you enjoy the job that you are doing in hospitality? Yes, I enjoy it.
Good.
So there you see there's a problem. Yeah, there's a
Mm-hmm.
disconnect. So you have to reel them back in. You should not go and study that because your friend is studying that. You should go and study something you're interested in, because it's a big investment to just do it for the sake of my friend.
Okay.
So I think also that's where the agents come into counseling the students in course selection.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because just to add on that
on.
very briefly, you see, in life, you can do and have anything you want. It's never about the other person. It's about, what do I really, truly want? Because if you are committed and dedicated to something, you're going to be successful.
Yes.
You don't have to do what
Everyone.
John or whoever else is doing in order for you to be successful. You know, always in life, it's where your desire lies, what you really, really want. It's very easy to succeed in that. If you're doing something because of somebody else, well, then you don't have the impetus or the inspiration to make sure that you are able to pull through. Yeah, I just wanted to add on that.
No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. And you know, there's a very great connection between you when you came here and the uni and the things that they provided for you. But what was your relationship like with the agency? Does your relationship end there? Do you guys still talk? Do they check up on you? Do they get to follow up and see how you're doing? Or the moment you get to Australia, it's enter the university, exit the agency?
So just back to now, let's now go back to the agency back home.
Yes.
So I walk into the agency without knowing anything about Australia. And I walked there, and the first thing they first listened to me. Why did I want to go to Australia? If, I mean, same subjects are taught back
Yes.
home, why not do them at home? And they listened to me. And then when they saw why I wanted to go to Australia, they now offered me to, you know what, we're going to give you a list of courses that are linked or that are connected to what you're doing, what you've studied before, and then advise you on those grounds. The other thing, they helped me first of all to choose the uni, because they give you different universities have different payments, school fees, and all that, and you from that, because they were clear. Because one thing that people should be clear about is the costs that, because sometimes you find that there are hidden charges which you do not know about.
Yes.
And let's say you knew your budget would be, let's say, 2 million,
2 million.
max, and then you, as a student, understand back home, you probably exhausted or tried and see at this particular point we only have the 2 million that you've asked for. So if you're told there's extra costs that was not mentioned, it will be bad and we will struggle. But the agency was very clear. They told us about everything that we needed. So by the time we did application, I knew what I wanted to come to study. They helped me step to step from application to getting the offer letter, from there to paying the school fees. Now, it's a little different. I don't know about, I've heard about other countries where you go and then when you get there, you pay your fees. But in this case, you first pay the school fees. Well, in a Kenyan way, you will think, well, we are paying for school fees that we've not gone to this uni. We do not know
Yes.
I mean, we may lose this money. But the agency was very firm and said, look, that's how it goes. These are the government requirements. Because once you pay the school fees, the uni receives it. When they receive it, as he said, you get confirmation of enrollment. So that shows that you've become a member of that uni already. You are enrolled in your course. So what's next? After that, they led me to get biometrics done, and then after that, my medical checkups. They even helped me apply for the visa. So they handled everything for me with information, because they would call me and update me where I can't remember a time when I called them to ask them about where we were with my application.
They kept updating.
They're very involved. The other question was, when I get to Australia, do I have anyone who I know who's going to accommodate me, or if it was okay for them to get me an accommodation?
Yes.
And I saw that as very good and involving, because for people who do not have relatives or people they know, the agency will help them with that. Now I finished that, and actually even including payment of the air ticket, they gave me options.
Involved.
Yeah, I remember I was looking at the tickets by then, one-way ticket, which is funny, one-way ticket. So, because you're going to look, it's going to be like 3-4 years when you're studying, so you do not really have to pay for a return ticket. But I mean, I had options of 150,000, 130,000. But I talked to them and I told them, look, we've paid school fees and we've used a lot of money. Are you able to negotiate for me? And they did, and I got a good deal.
Good.
And paid for the tickets. When I got here, I remember very well, there's a lady called Millicent. She called me, checked on me if I arrived here, if I met my cousin who we were going to meet at the airport. And then after that, she called me after a week. She was like, have you gone to uni? How is it? And luckily enough, even the owner lives in Australia. So you find that we are always meeting in church. And she was always checking, like, how is everything? How is school going? Are you going to school? Because some people, and truth be told, some people come here and will easily lose focus, because if you come when you're very young, you're exposed to freedom. People get money, they work, find that no one is following you, then it's easy to lose focus. So I found the agency to be very involved, including the success coaches, because the agency pushes you on one side,
The
success
success
goes on
coach
the other side.
pushes
So
you.
you still
You're
stay,
fully covered.
you're fully covered.
Maintain focus.
Exactly.
Good.
And they were really involved and they helped me.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
And I think I just want to add a little bit. Japheth mentioned something there about hidden charges.
Yes.
And I think people need to be clear. You know, when you are saying about studying in Australia, people always, I feel like people only think about two things. How much is the bank statement? How much is the initial deposit? Those are the two questions that people often ask.
Yes.
But you need to have the whole picture. It's not only about the bank statement and how much is my initial deposit. When you go into the agent's office, my advice is ask the following questions. Do you charge an agency fee? How much is it? How does the school charge an application fee? If yes, how much? If no, good. How much will be my initial tuition deposit? How much will be my medical insurance? How much money should I have in the bank? Whose bank statement can I use? How long must the money have been in the account? How much is accommodation? How much do I need for living expenses? How much is a flight ticket? How much do I need to bring for pocket money? Now, when you have all that...
And the visa application.
oh, gosh, okay. How much is the visa fee? How much is the biometrics? How much is the English test? You know? You need to have all these figures in front of you to make an informed decision. It's not only about the bank statement and the initial deposit. That's what some people call hidden charges. They're not hidden, they're out there. You just didn't get access to that information. So pick a pen and paper, rewind, and make a list of what I just said, and make sure you ask those questions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, he did mention, are there countries where students pay on arrival the fees? And also, if as a student I come here, I don't like Australia, I miss home, I want to study back at home, can the uni refund me my money?
So now, that is an interesting question. The uni can, there is, with your admission letter, now that's a good question. Now that takes me back to your admission letter. When you get your admission letter, there is a refund policy that is attached to that admission letter, and that is a government regulation.
Yes.
It must be in the admission letter. Now, the refund policy dictates how much you are entitled to a refund based on your course intake. So, you know, if you decide, you know, to withdraw maybe 2 weeks before the census of the school, you are entitled to X amount of money. If it's towards the end of the term, you're probably not entitled to anything. If you get a visa refusal, you are entitled to 100% tuition fee deposit because, you know, it's not your fault. You just didn't get the visa. So I would say every university is different. They have a different refund policy, but just read the refund policy before you start thinking of withdrawing and going somewhere else or going back home.
Would there be an option for Kenyans to pay on arrival?
No, because that's a government regulation. To be able to get what we call that confirmation of enrollment, in as much as it is issued by the university, it's actually we generate it from the government website. So it's issued actually by the government. So that confirmation of enrollment is a visa requirement. You can't apply for a visa without that. So you cannot apply for a visa without paying fees. However, if your visa is not granted, you're entitled to 100% back of your tuition fees.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And he spoke about, you know, some of the challenges that people might experience as students is the introduction of jobs, because with jobs comes money. So at what point as students do they get to work? And also, are there like letters written by the university? And also, what are these jobs that the students can get involved in?
Okay, so in the regulations by the government, while your term is in session, you're allowed to work limited 20 hours a week. Okay, they say 40 hours a fortnight, but I like to make it simple. So it's 20 hours a week. You can work part-time while the term is in session. Once you go on school break, you're allowed to work full-time. Now, because 20 hours a week generally means you can only work part-time because there is no job that is 20 hours a week full-time. So this would normally be part-time jobs, and there would be jobs that you are easily able to shift them around. Because sometimes you might find you have a lecture on Monday morning, and then Tuesday afternoon, nothing on Wednesday, and then Thursday midday. So it's not standard your school timetable. So you need to find a job that you can shift around. So this would be part-time jobs, like you can work in a cafeteria, you can work in aged care, supporting people, the senior citizens. You can work in youth work. You can work. There's all sorts of part-time jobs that people can do. Some people work as taxi drivers. Whatever part-time job that you can find. Some people work as virtual assistants. Some people freelance photography and things like that. As long as it's a flexible job. Some people also work as a research assistant. Things like that.
Okay. Do we get a work permit as students? And also, can I start working tomorrow when I enroll today?
You can start working when your school starts. Yeah. So even if you get your visa 3 months before your school starts and you come here, you can't start working. You're only allowed to start working once your school starts.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the things maybe, John, you can talk to us about, because you've been here in the community for a long time. There is always something, the introduction of money to someone who might not have touched money. There is always a bit of confusion there. So what role maybe does the community play to maybe advise these young people? Yes, we know you are touching money for the first time, but money comes with its own challenges, because I think I was having a side conversation with Japheth, and that's one of the reasons why people will change all of a sudden, because now they know they are getting money. So what role does the community play in talking to these young people about money? And also, if I decide as a student, I think I love work more. I will maybe participate in school a bit and prioritize work. What are the consequences? Beth can follow it up. What are the consequences from my university if I decide I want to miss classes because I need to prioritize on getting my money?
I think, thanks for that. I think it's two-pronged. Again, I'll go back to the entry point of the agent. It is really important as an agent to make sure that you advise students. Yes, they will come here and they will work, but you have to remain focused on your objective. You see, in life, if you're not focused, all sorts of things can happen. So from our perspective, number one is that at the point of enrolling and going through that process with the agent, it's really important that we let the student know, yes, you're going to be allowed to work, but you cannot afford not to go through with your studies because your visa is going to get cancelled. If you're not attending classes, the system is such that you'll be able to be monitored, you'll be given a warning, and if you don't comply, and Beth can probably add further to this, your visa is going to be rejected and cancelled, and you have to go back home. And I think for me, that is a wonderful aspect of Australia, because the objective is that you came here to study. You really didn't come here to work. You came here to study. Yes, you've been given the opportunity to work. Now, in addition, I think one of the key things, especially with the Adelaide community, is that we are always engaging and interacting with students. And for example, for me, I see myself as a parent. Any child is almost like my child. It is my objective, and it's not just me, within the community. It is our objective to make sure that we are guiding our young people in the right way, because there is freedom that they're going to experience, but then you have to be responsible. You cannot expect to do certain things and not suffer the consequences. So I would say that our community is pretty good in that sense, in that regard, because whereas there could be some of those cases where students come here and they've gone off their way, we try and reach out. For example, I think it's probably maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I got contacted. There was a student who had come, gotten into bad behavior, gotten into alcohol, and we intervened. We assisted that particular candidate. She went back home, went into a rehab, and then came back and continued with their studies. So from a community perspective, yes. Also from an Australian perspective, there is, like you talked about, student support. There is a lot of support if a student it's not just about class, it's also about lifestyle. If a student is kind of going, how would I put it, astray, for lack of a better word, there is also support within the universities to assist those students so that they can get back on track.
Beautiful.
Because from a university perspective, their success is the success of that student. So you provide all the necessary support that somebody needs in order for them to be successful, whatever that support is. From a Kenyan community, for example, we have CASA, which is the Kenya Association of South Australia. It has an arm that is actually a student welfare, whereby if a student feels, because sometimes students, they might feel shy, for example, for somebody from a different background, that gives them the opportunity to approach the community through CASA, through the student representative, and they can always be assisted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beth, also maybe to add on what John is saying, how strict is the university in making sure I follow up with my education? And also things, I might have presented a bank statement, but also things happen back home, a challenge here and there. If I am not able to continue paying my fees, even with the jobs that I have around, can the university allow me to defer? I work and then pay for the fees, and also where do scholarships come in?
Okay, so I'll just take it from the tail end. So scholarships come in from the get-go, from when you apply. We do have a number of scholarships. For us, we don't have a separate scholarship application process. For every application that we receive, we assess, does this candidate meet the criteria for any of our scholarship? And if you meet the criteria for 3, 4, 5 scholarships, we pick the highest scholarship, and you award you that. We can only award one scholarship at a time, just to make it equal and available to everyone else. So the scholarship is not only per term or per year. Our scholarship is for the entire duration of your course. So if we say we are giving you a 15% scholarship, you get 15% of every term, every term, until you finish. Now, if during the course of your studies, something happens, maybe, I don't know, business collapses back home or something like that, you do have a few options. You can go to student services in whichever campus that you're at. You go to student services and you explain your circumstance. One option they can give you is a payment plan. So they tell you, okay, how much do you think you can be able to pay? On a weekly basis or fortnightly. The idea here is not for you to stop studying. We want you continue studying, but you're paying slowly as you go along. If it is such that you are working and making some money, because one thing with Australia, bills are paid here weekly. So accordingly, a lot of people receive their money weekly as well. So, the counselor would ask you, how much are you able to pay per week? And then they can work out a payment plan for you that allows you to continue studying and also paying slowly. Because on a student visa, you're not allowed to not study. Because if you stop studying, your visa is at risk. It will be cancelled by immigration. Because as a university provider and under the laws here in Australia, if a student misses more than 80% of their attendance, of their classes, or, they're failing everything and they're just not able to bring their scores back up, we are required to report that to immigration. Now, before we report that to immigration, we do send the student a warning or a notification, and it's usually like intention to report. So we'll be like, hey, Lynn, we've identified you're not attending classes at all for the last X number of times. Your success coach has tried to reach out to you. You're not responding. Is everything okay? Please, we are just letting you know, if we don't hear from you by this date, we will have to report to immigration. Someone needs to do a welfare check on you. Something could have happened. We don't know because we are not able to get in touch with you. And, at the expiration of that date, unfortunately, the rules are we do need to cancel that enrollment. And once we cancel that enrollment, then it notifies immigration that you are no longer a student, and immigration officials will come looking for you and send you back home. So to avoid that, we always say to students, come to us before it gets, before it gets bad. When you start feeling or seeing the signs that it's not going well, come to us. We will work out something, whether it's a payment plan. You cannot really take a deferral. Well, you can take a deferral of up to 8 weeks. 8 weeks is the maximum you're allowed to stay in Australia on a student visa and not study. More than 8 weeks, now you're in breach of your student visa. You're in trouble. So it's at that time that we will advise you to speak to a migration agent and find out what are your options, because there are other alternative visas that you can probably apply for, that you don't have to study, and that will, you know, whatever circumstance you might be in, but then we have the resources here to advise you on what to do and where to go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just to add on
Go
that,
on.
there's I call it laser focus. I'll give you an analogy to that. There's you've seen when we have those dogs that are being trained by soldiers, and they're used to a certain way of doing things. So you'll find probably there's something that's been suspended up there, and the dog needs to run, step on the wall and bite it. Even if you brought steak on the side or chicken on the side, it will not look at it. It will just focus on that. And then once it gets that, it comes back with the meat.
Yes.
What I can tell students who are here, or even someone who's back home and they need to come here, just do not have the greed to get the money. Because trust me, after you're done with your student visa, if I wanted to work 1,000 hours, I would. If I get 1,000 hours, I will work, because my visa right now is not a student visa. I can, but just push yourself for that duration that you're in school. And of course, when you are coming here, your parents showed, or whoever is supporting you, showed that you have a capability to pay the school fees, right? So if you can just hold on to that for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, and you're done with uni, and now you get to freedom. Now you can work as much as you want. You'll get the money, you'll recover your school fees back, you'll do everything that you want.
Yes.
If someone can just have that patience, they will see the fruits. But now if they go against that, one thing here, systems work. And the way she said, when the COE is cancelled, instantly, they will come knocking, they will look for you.
And they'll find
They
you.
will call you. Yeah, they actually send you a reminder on the email that up to this date, you need to have acquired a new visa or left the country. So that's something that I would really tell people, because in life, good things don't rush. No shortcuts. People want the microwave sort of
The
success. Which I'm against myself. It's good, just push, and most of us may not agree with me, but it's the truth. If you want the shortcut, they'll get you. You'll not go to school, you'll get the money, but you'll go. What's the essence of you coming in here after the sacrifice? By first of all, you've wasted your time, you've paid some money already, and your parents or siblings are invested in that. Or you're here to later when you're done, so you can bring other your relatives to and reign that. The society, even, the nature will not even be happy with it. So it's good to have patience, wait for the time when you're done, you'll be able to do all that.
I love that, a beautiful analogy, but let me now ask you a very honest question, because this is something we had when we first did our first show on Australia. From a young man's perspective, are young people here in Australia struggling with drug abuse, mental health, and do we have young Kenyans in rehab?
Well, with honesty, I'll start from something I mentioned before.
Yes.
Sometimes young people, as young as you just finished your Form 4 last year, and you do not have any experience yet, and you come to Australia where you get a job, you start working, you're exposed to, you have money, right? And there's freedom because your parents are not here, your guardians are not around. So yes, just like in any other community, people are into drugs. People get into such things. The beauty with that is that we have the communities that have the unity, and there's always the welfare check, like CASA. The people will always have a look and know what's happening to these people. Do people go to rehab? Yeah, they do. Because of course, if something like that happens, something has got to be done by the community, because it's way beyond you doing, because you got into yourself into this, and jokingly you now in too deep that you can't take out of. I mean, you can't walk out of it by yourself. So that's when now the community comes in to now hold your hand, and they're doing a very good job. And yes, people get here and struggle, but I always say that the moment you get here, make sure that you acquaint yourself with the right group of people. If you meet some people and you feel like this is not your right fit, just let them be. I'll give you and everybody will fight me for this, but I don't drink. People drink. Do I have friends who drink? Yes. Did I decide consciously not to drink? Yes. Why? I chose not to drink. Am I saying drinking is bad? Depends on what someone wants from that. So I chose to decide on my ground that, you know what, this is my choice and I'm going to stand with it. So if you come here and you're easily swayed into some things, you'll definitely go in there, you'll lose focus, you'll lose time, you'll lose your money, your health is going to be at stake. You will go back home, the way he said. And who knows, life gives you chances. And if you misuse those chances, then you never, if you don't use those chances wisely, you'll never reap out of it. So it's wise when someone comes here, even in as much as you're exposed. Some of us came here when we had already worked home, so we knew how to handle money. We had some experiences at work, but even though some of us were a bit, mature, it can get to anybody. My advice to those people is that when you come here, get the right group of people. You'd rather now focus, stay in uni. Uni will not chase you that you decided to study 24 hours, right?
That's true.
Yeah, if you want to live in uni when you study, not literally living, but study all the time. I remember I used to sometimes, because you had to study so much, so we would just come into uni, stay here till 2 in the morning, and no one is chasing you out. If we chose to now, someone else at that time, when we are studying, someone else is out there doing there. So I will say, choose the right group wisely. Focus, remember why you came here, because you came here to make your life better, right? You are looking for better opportunities, for education, better education. Why can't you first focus on that? And then when you're done, you can do other things. And in the process of you focusing, you meet other people who you are like-minded and you grow. I'll give an example, something that I didn't mention here. I met a friend of mine. He's called Ken. We started a company. We build websites. We do integrations. We build solutions for organizations other than now employment. And I would think if people came together and thought, you know what, we are like-minded. We are like-minded. We have the same thought. Let's build something. If you maintain that consistency, you're not going to find yourselves in some things because you're going to be. I'll give you a short. My day starts at. I usually wake up at 5:30 in the morning. Get ready. Sometimes go to the gym, but sometimes you get lazy in the morning. Go for a run. Okay, get to work at 9 in the morning, finish work at 5. If I finish work at 5:30, I'm in my side, let me call it side hustle with my friend, work till about midnight or 1. I go home, eat, sleep, wake up tomorrow. You have to be consistent for you to get somewhere. But if you come here, you've made some money. People have made money and because if you choose wisely, if you meet people who have been there before, they've made this money, you look at their lifestyle and you're thinking, if this person was exposed to this money and they were not swayed, why can't I do like they are doing? Why do I want to move to this other side where we will be easily swayed, get into trouble with the government? Because trust me, if you're on drugs, government will be knocking your door all the time. The police will be in your area all the time. And you'll always say, have you heard of the story where people steal? And the only one day when you decide to steal is when you're caught. Yeah.
So, you're like, why did I?
Exactly. So come to this side. Yes. Trust me, if you meet Beth, if you meet John, they've been there, they have the experience. If you approach them and say, you know what, I don't know what to do, can you lead me? Can you be my mentor? They will gladly do that.
Beautiful.
Because no one who wants to come here and see your own community going to waste, right? Because if we all grow together, we are going to have impact to even people back home, and that we are going to be a good example. So trust me, in a few years, the whole community changes. But now, whoever you hang around is the key thing.
If I may add on that, I think it's really spot on what you're saying. And irrespective of where we are, societies always we have those issues. One thing I would say, having lived here for quite a bit of time, is that out of every 100 students that come to Australia, I would say 95 of them do the right thing.
Beautiful.
Okay, we have that small percentage that goes
astray.
And I think also here it's important for people to also understand that it's not an Australian thing. Even back in Kenya,
it's a global thing.
It's a global thing.
Yes.
The most important thing is that it's not what happens, it's what we do as a result of what happens. The infrastructure in Australia to help people like that is amazing. So the aspect that the government has got facilities, the universities have facilities to get somebody through rehab and be able to still continue their life is phenomenal. So the key is in life, we have to take what I call responsibility, you know. And also, and I think I alluded to this when I was at your show, even when we look at our children as parents, in my opinion, there are those kids that we know they would survive in an environment like this. There are those kids that we know they wouldn't. And sometimes, not all, but sometimes as parents, we think that by getting the child out of this environment to another environment, we are solving the problem. But we always have to go to the root cause of the problem. If you don't address the root cause of the problem, by moving somebody from here to there,
Till catch up.
it will still catch
I
up.
love
And
that.
I think I also want to say that, you know, even when people say, you know, we have Kenyans in rehab here and I find like it's not a bad thing. If someone is in rehab, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to right the wrong.
Yes.
You know, they're trying to fix it. So being in rehab is not an embarrassing thing. It's not a shameful thing.
It's a beautiful
In fact,
thing.
it's a beautiful thing that someone, yes, they acknowledge, I made a mistake, I got
need
myself,
help.
now I need help. And they're seeking the help and they're getting the help. So to me, being in rehab is not a bad thing.
It's not, huh?
Yeah, it's
I
actually
love
a
that.
great thing.
I love
Yeah.
that we've gotten that out of the way. And
Yeah.
maybe just to add on, I feel like what John has said, you know, it's a global issue.
It is a global
Even in
issue.
Kenya, we have so many rehabs
Exactly.
full of young people.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was ever written in Australia, you fail when you admit or you
Absolutely
get
not.
admitted
No.
to a rehab. But we are students, we come here, we study. At the end of the day, we are not going to be students forever. He just mentioned you even have a side hustle. So that means you have your main job and your side hustle. That's good. That's good. You know,
Yeah.
what are the opportunities here for students after school? Then what?
So the beauty with Australia is after you finished your studies, there's something here called a post-study work visa. So the essence of a post-study work visa is, I think, you know, it's recognized that a lot of employers, when you go for a job interview, they ask you for work experience. So after you finished your bachelor's, for example, you have no work experience. So getting a job will be tricky. So the idea of the post-study work visa, which is 2 to 3 years, is give you the work experience. So you hang out here if you want to, you do a job or jobs in those 2 to 3 years, you gain work experience, and then you have options. Either you can apply for a postgraduate course, or you can go into a work visa, or you can go apply for your permanent residence. There's a few options that are available. Or you go back home, depending on your personal circumstance on what you want. Or you go to another country, whatever suits you. But there is very many options available for students after their studies. Personally, I finished my course and then I did my work visa. I got my post-study work visa, got my work experience, and then applied for my permanent residence, and then applied for my citizenship. So it's, there is options available. Not everyone needs to follow that path, but it's one of the options that I can testify to. Yeah.
And maybe Japheth, you know, the big question in the room, why Australia? Why not Kenya?
Well, Australia is, well, I know we have same opportunities back home, right? But there's always something, and I remember when we were having a chat here, there's some exposure that someone gets, to be honest. Doesn't mean that back home people are not exposed. People are exposed, but there's some extra exposure that people get, and the kind of knowledge. Because will it hurt if someone comes to study here? No. I mean, you'll get knowledge, you'll get some experience, exposure is there, and who doesn't like to explore something out of there? Well, someone was saying that if you want to grow, leave your village, go to the city, right? Well, that's now Australia became our city. So we came for exposure, get to learn, get to understand other cultures, because from that we gain expertise, let me put it that way. And then when we go home, we're able to implement the same, because we've seen the government sometimes even getting expertise from outside. So why not us ourselves come and gain the experience, go back home
and be our expert.
Even if maybe we work from here, or go back home. So it's a good place. Education is really, really good. And some of the universities here are very highly ranked because of what she said, the industry-based training. And as she mentioned, my mentor after uni, I mean, he has a company as well. So he was leading me and guiding me on how to implement or use the knowledge I knew into the industry. So these are places where you can get all that. And if you can get that, then why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
And I think also issues like skills transfer. So, you know, once you study here, you get a different set of skills that is probably not available in Kenya. This is like getting an international experience and international skills. Kenya is the economic hub of Eastern and Sub-Saharan Africa. There's a lot of international companies that are setting up there. So for you to approach them with your resume that shows that you have international experience, you've lived abroad, you've studied abroad, you've worked with international companies, I think it puts you, ahead of the rest of the pack when you're able to demonstrate this as well. Yeah.
And go on, John.
No, I was just going to add to that
Yes, go
that one of the things that I really admire about Australia is the culture, the work culture, the business culture, the way we do things here. I think we are very fortunate to be here. I've been very privileged to travel to a few countries.
Yes.
And the way things are done in Australia, there's a lot of order, there's a lot of system, which if as a student you come and you're getting exposed to that, then when you go back home, you're going to take those traits, those values, that culture, which I think Kenya can really learn from that. And then also, and this is not really to put Kenya down, Australia is a fast world. Kenya is still developing.
Yes. So
there is a lot that we can borrow from the way things are done here, both from a student perspective, from a business perspective. It's a merger, I think, that does help. And it works both ways. You see, a student coming here, getting exposed, going back to Kenya, the education here is getting international students. So it's a good, really good, how do I say, blend that benefits all of us.
Beautiful.
The key thing is to make sure that we respect both countries and the systems that are there. And I say that because sometimes you hear people saying, oh, going to Australia, it's so hard, it's so difficult. Well, those systems are put there to protect even the students who are coming here.
I love that.
That's what I wanted to say.
And that's why we have exchange programs.
Yes.
Even we've seen students from
we
other
do.
countries go home. Yeah.
From Australia,
So
go home.
I think we
Yes,
do.
we do have students as part of a placement. In fact, I was speaking to someone in the staff kitchen earlier, and he was telling me how they've just finished a project in Kenya, working with a team in Kenya, and even at Torrance University. I think we are very deliberate in the kind of collaborations we do in Kenya. We do train senior and mid-level managers for a lot of Kenyan companies. We give them a graduate certificate in business management, business administration, just to give them an upskill, into like Australian curriculum and like Australia workplace that they can implement back at the offices in Kenya.
I love that.
Yeah.
But John, education has no limit, right? I think for me, one of the demotivating factor, 99% of this I definitely love, but there's that 1% of what do we do with people who are 35 years or over 35 years, because talk in town is in Australia, man, that age is very difficult for you to be able to. So what do we do? Like, I want to come to Torrance and I want to study, but clearly my age is not their cup of tea. So what do I do, John?
Well, I think, again, it's looking at, the various regulations that are there for somebody to qualify for the specific visas. And I think from an Australian perspective, you are expected by the time you're getting to that age to really have done with your studies. The only other option, if one is probably over 35, is maybe to look at various options like skilled migration, because Australia does need people with skills. So, for example, engineers, I think IT consultants, nurses, by the way, people in the health industry, people in the hospitality industry.
Media personalities? Clearly, nothing is for me here.
And the government has, the Department of Home Affairs has a whole list of people who, if they have certain skill sets, they are welcome to come to Australia. Personally, that's how I came here. I came as an accountant. And my wife came because of our skill set. So there is still an opportunity that is open for people who are above 35.
Yes.
However, again, also with skilled migration, there is also an age limit, because also the government is looking at what's the productivity of these people. How are they going to be productive to our community? and because also it's not just a matter of issuing visas, it's also a matter of the Australian government looking at the infrastructure. Do we have enough hospitals? Or there's a whole consideration that has to go into account, because granted, Australians have one of the best lifestyles, and people don't want that to be compromised. Yeah, there's still an opportunity. I mean,
but for me, maybe a call to action, a plea. It's
Yeah.
because I have, in our culture or in our communities, sometimes you are not able to get this experience or the education, because sometimes you gotta start working and take yourself back to school. And there are so many people even above 35 that are enrolling back to school because they might have missed out on those opportunities, and now they are able to work and also get some money, and people always want to go back to school. So for me, it's just a plea. Like things are a bit hard, you know.
But there is options.
It's an
as
option,
John,
yeah.
as John
Skilled.
said, you know, you can study virtually, you can study online, get your
In
qualifications.
Australia, why do I don't know putting a laptop in front of me? I want to be here.
ukimaliza sasa you come as a skilled migration. We give you the skills, then you come.
niingishe class alafu nifanye hizi part-time jobs, you know. Don't be so virtual will I get jobs also?
We will speak to the government.
Thank you. No,
We
it's
will
just,
lobby.
it's just a plea, because
Yeah.
even people when they're above 35, they want to
I
experience
understand
life,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And one of
no,
the
it's an
ways-
ongoing conversation in the Australian, I guess, political sphere. Because of course, you know, people especially who are doing like PhDs and stuff like that, a lot of them would be above the age of 35.
Exactly.
Because by the time you decide, you know, by the time you decide to do a PhD, a lot of people,
Unlike Japheth, you know, Japheth is already in his PhD
I
right
know,
now.
but a
So
lot of people, especially from an African setting, you decide to do a PhD after X amount of
Which
work
is true.
experience, 10 years plus sometimes. And of course, by that time you've settled, you have a family, you have, you know, that's when a lot of people apply for PhD. So it's an ongoing conversation. It's
Beautiful.
not yet set in law, but yeah, we'll see how that
good,
goes.
add your voice into it, because it's so important for the African people.
Yes.
Yeah.
We get to go back to school sometimes when it's too late, and
Yeah.
we want the PhDs and the masters,
Yeah.
so that we are competent, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that we are not at a disadvantaged position.
Absolutely, yeah.
But other than that, this has been an amazing conversation. I've gotten to experience Australia firsthand. We are filming this at Torrens University, which is also a uni. One of the what is Torrens known for? Let's just maybe briefly.
Torrens is known for a lot of things. So it's Australia's youngest university. It's the first university that has been registered in Australia in over 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's the youngest university. It's a dynamic university. It's a national university. So we have campuses in Adelaide, in Sydney, in Melbourne, and in Brisbane. We offer a lot of courses. We offer courses in business, in design, hospitality, technology, health, research, English. So we have a lot of courses that we offer, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. We are also known for our flexibility in intakes. So a lot of universities here have 1 or 2 intakes. We have up to 6 intakes in a year. That means we are very flexible in whatever intake a student wants to come in. We are very Africa focused, so we do have a lot of scholarships available for African students. Literally, the only criteria is to have a valid African passport, regardless of which country it's from. And then from there, we do have other higher scholarships available to our students. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's about Torrens University.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I must. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful space,
Yeah.
and for me, I love the inclusion, the inclusivity,
Yes.
which is really good. But other than that, I want to wind up. If someone has anything, feel free to add on to it. Also, we can get a parting shot, and also where can people be able to find you?
For us, what would I say? Thank you so much for this. I think it was really important that we've given quite good clarity with regards to information that is relevant for people to come to Australia. I think it's really important for people to have the right information. We do have an office in Nairobi. We have an office in Westlands. We are in the Ryan Center on 4th floor. And I'm very fortunate in the sense that even our manager did his postgraduate studies here.
Oh, wow.
So he really understands Australia. Anybody who would like to have more information, they are more than welcome to visit our offices.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's been really wonderful to share the panel with these wonderful people.
Yes.
And thanks for facilitating this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, my parting shot is applications are still open. So as I said before, if you want to study at Torrens University, whichever course that you're interested in, you can go to our website. It's www.torrens.edu.au. The website will be down here. Visit our website, look at our courses, look at our agents, submit your application, and I look forward to seeing you on the streets of Torrens University.
Yes. Now, letting you go, you had something good for my audience.
Oh yes. Okay. So if you watch this show and you submit your application, please ask your agent to mention in the application that you have watched the Lynn Ngugi show, and you will be awarded a special 20% scholarship on your admission letter. Welcome to Torrens University.
That's 20% scholarship.
That's 20% every term until you finish your course.
Joshua, can you apply for me? Because oh, sorry, the age. Yes, thank you, Ben, for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Chafe.
Yeah, for me, I want to encourage everybody who wants to come to study in Australia that it's a good place to live, and you get to meet different people, from different places, different cultures. The schools are very good. We have infrastructure, and we have support. After school, you're able to get jobs, and we have people even in the workplaces willing to help us to grow our careers, grow experiences, managers. And she mentioned something that here the name sir or what just goes away, because I used to call my boss the same thing, but he was very uncomfortable. I was like, just call me my name.
They're like Sir John.
Yeah, so yeah.
Madam Beth.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So it's a very good place to live, and I would encourage everybody just apply and come to Australia. However, what I'll tell you is that success leaves a blueprint. So if you want to be successful, you can always know. If you work, you'll definitely succeed. If you don't, it's like an exam. If you study for an exam,
You'll pass.
you'll pass. If you don't,
You'll fail.
yes.
If
So
you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail.
Yeah,
exactly.
failure
So
is
let's come together,
Yes.
hold our hands together, support each other, and then let's grow together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking time. As I said earlier, I'm loving Australia. I'm loving these meaningful and thought-provoking conversations, and I wouldn't have done it either way. Both the three of you have really been great, and you've given us clarity. And I hope we can continue sitting and having more amazing conversation. Thank you for that scholarship opportunity to our audience. And all I can tell them is actually Australia is a good place to be in. But before I forget, how is the rate of unemployment in Australia?
Wow.
Lynn, when we say we need skilled people, we have jobs and no workers.
Hey, good.
This is the problem here.
Yes.
You know, Australia is vast. I think someone once painted a picture for me and said, you can put 10 Kenyas into Australia, but we are only 22, 23 million people here, right? So there is a vast area of Australia that, okay, it's probably inhabitable.
Yes.
But there is a skills shortage. People, as Australia is expanding, it's developing into those regional areas, and we need skills, we need people.
Good.
Yeah.
Opportunities are
Opportunities are there.
Grab
jobs
them.
Are there. Lynn, a lot of the time, if you find someone doesn't have a job, very rarely. Labda alikataa kazi.
Alikataa kazi.
Ama nachagua sana. But the jobs are there.
Na mchagua jembe si
mkulima.
si mkulima. Shall we wind it up?
Yeah.
That's been awesome, guys. You know, I've loved this conversation. I hope you too have. And you know how we do it on the comment section. Engage with us there. Share your, feedback. Let me know what your take home is. And I hope even parents who are watching this and they have intentions of sending their kids to come and study in Australia, I hope all your questions have been answered. But if maybe we haven't touched on anything, their website will be pinned on the comment section, and you can be able just maybe to get in touch, and I'm sure you can be able to get more details. I hope we've covered everything, and I hope finally we can put an end to this conversation. Thank you for being with us. Our tour in Australia continues. We are meeting incredible people. We are having great conversations, and I hope you walk with with us through this journey as you suggest also where next for Team LNN. Where do you want us to go and explore? Today is Muga's birthday. We are filming this on the 15th of May. It's Muga's birthday. So Muga, from the team and the entire people, our entire team hapa LNN, we wish you a very blessed birthday. And alispoiliwa jana at some Japanese restaurant, lakini leo pia tunaweza mpikia kaugali na nyama. Sorry kuku, bado in Australia he still insists on having chicken. I'm like, you'll go try things, try sushi, try this
pasta bolognese.
at what?
Bolognese.
Yeah, for bolognese, even kangaroo attack. So I'm like, but we wish him well. He's been incredible during this tour, filming these beautiful concepts for you, and I hope he knows that we really appreciate him. And of course, to our leader, Joshua J. Karanja, thank you so much for taking care of the team here in Australia and the rest of the people, Valerie, Lynn Mutange, all the people at LNN who you guys don't get to see in front of the camera. We appreciate you, and I hope we are making you guys proud during our tour in Australia. Other than that, it's been an amazing conversation. On to our next show. So as usual, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. Kenyan time. Kujeni Australia, so many you could get to explore. Na pia you can come here for vacation, not just you chukua visa ya tourist, ukuje ujione, ukule kangaroo. That's what life is about. Experience, explore, and get to open and broaden your mind. I've been your amazing host, Lynn Ngugi. Bye-bye.